Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll talk about Umami, which is a free, open source, and private alternative to Google Analytics. I'm gonna walk you through all the features that you get with Umami. Then we're gonna go ahead, set it up on a DigitalOcean cluster using Docker, expose it to the public internet using Nginx, and finally connect it to our NextJS or ReactJS application. I'll also link a blog post in the comments below, so if you want more details, feel free to take a look at that. Okay, so with that said, I will get started by showing the features that you get with Umami. Currently, as you can see, Umami is being hosted in one of my subdomain called umami.urtizahafiz.com. It is tracking all the metrics of my website, which you're gonna find over here, called urtizahafiz.com. So everything is deployed in the public internet. So hopefully the example will show you exactly how I achieved this. So to look at the features at first, the Umami dashboard gives you things like views, unique visitor, bounce rate, and average visit time. All these should show you how your website is trending over time. Right now I have it set to all time, but you can either slice it by 24 hours, weekly, monthly, however you need to. Once you click into the details, you're gonna see that I can see individual page views over here. So I'm gonna zoom in a few levels. Okay, so you can see the individual page views. I can see the referrer, so whether my traffic is coming from YouTube, Instagram, or some other page. I can see the distribution of the browser, Chrome, iOS, Safari, you can see that, operating system, devices, which is pretty cool. So I can see whether most of my visitors are coming from laptop or desktop or mobile or tablet. And based on that, I actually decided to make the website responsive when I saw that around 20% of the traffic was coming from mobile. Before that, it was only designed for desktop. You can see the more the geography of the traffic that your website is getting. So you can see I'm getting around 42% from the US, and then I have India, United Kingdom, Germany, Canada. And finally, you also see this. This is called events, and this lets you track any user interaction on your website. So you can see I have events that are tracking when a user is clicking between the different tabs of my website. So you're gonna see, like, if I click blog, there's gonna be an event. Credit card is also an event, and within credit card, if you click on apply, I can also track that to see if users are more interested in one card over another. So that's really handy, and I'm gonna show you exactly how you can do it in JavaScript. Okay, so that's most of it in the dashboard. And then Umami also lets you create reports. These are gonna be reports that you generate and keep an eye on from time to time. So I'm gonna go through a few of these. So you can create a funnel report. I have a funnel report called credit card apply interest. If I view it and I take a look at it, maybe this here, run query, I can see exactly how many of the visitors that are viewing the homepage is actually ending up clicking on the credit card apply button. So it's around 1% of the users who land on my homepage are actually trying to or showing interest in applying for a credit card. Similarly, I'll go back and I can see a read funnel, which essentially tells me what percent of my website visitors are reading at least one blog post after they land on the homepage. So if I take a look at that, I'm gonna take a look at this here. And you're gonna see that around 30% of the visitors who land on my homepage are actually ending up in one of the blog subpages. And then just to see one more, a little different, which can be maybe by UTM source. So this is fairly new, so we won't have a ton of data. But you can see that based on the UTM source of the incoming link, I can slice my traffic and see if most of my traffic are coming from YouTube, Medium, or some other place. So Umami lets you do all that, and again, all these are free, open source, and the data lives in your instance wherever you're hosting Umami. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of all the different features that Umami has to offer. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how can you actually set it up, how the system design is gonna look like, and finally how you can connect the Umami instance with your React code or NextJS code. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the blog post that I have over here. The blog post will also be linked in the description below if you want to take a look at it. So the first thing to see is how exactly the design is gonna work. So we have the public internet, and then we have the server where your Umami instance will actually be running. The public internet is where your website lives, right? So if I go to, let's see, if I go to urtizahafis.com, this page, it is being served from my server, but it's actually running in the user's browser, okay? So that will be in the public internet, and you need a way for this browser to talk to the Umami instance, which is gonna be hosted in your server. So going back over here, you'll see that the public internet needs a way to communicate with the Nginx server, which is essentially the machine where my Umami instance will be hosted. So you're going to see the Umami instance here, and then the public internet talks to the Umami instance through an Nginx server. All the analytics data that Umami has will be stored in the Postgres database. Again, even that will be locally hosted on the server. So nothing is leaving the server. You own all the data, you own the analytics, and nothing is being sort of sent to Google or any other third-party platform. And over here, you're going to see that my Nginx server routes all requests that are going to be coming to umami.urtizahafis.com. It's going to route all of them to the locally running Docker container. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how the architecture is going to look like in the server. And now we're going to move into the installation part where I'll show you how you can actually set this thing up. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is actually install Umami in your server. And to do that, the guidelines are very, very simple. I'll just open it here and then I'll show you the code as well. So Umami lets you actually use Docker to get Umami up and running in your server. So all you need is these three commands. You git clone Umami, you cd into the directory, and then you just run docker compose. The git clone over here essentially pulls a Docker compose file with all the instances that you need to actually run Docker. So I can actually show you over here. So I'm already logged in. So I'll just quickly show you the Docker compose file. Okay, so you'll see over here, this is the, wait a minute, there you go. This is the Docker compose file that you actually get from Umami when you run these three commands or these two commands. And in the Docker compose file, you're running a Docker instance of Umami. So this is where your actual Umami code is living. And then you have a Postgres database that's spun up as well. And Umami will actually use the database to store all the data that it needs to. You're going to see that there's like a dependency over here where the Umami instance depends on the Postgres database to be up and running. Okay, so that is the Docker compose file, and that's all you need to get Umami up and running in any machine. For me, I use a DigitalOcean server to host everything, but you can do it in your own laptop if you are just testing it out. Okay, so let's go back to the blog post. Now with that, you'll have Umami running locally, and then the next part is gonna be, let's see, yeah, the next part is gonna be, let's go to the diagram. Okay, So at this point, you'll have the Umami instance running within the server, but now you want a way for the public internet to actually communicate to this instance, right? Because the visitor who's visiting your website, the code will be running on their browser. And whenever they click a button or click a link, if you want to track that, you need that browser to send an event to your server. And that's why you need this Umami instance that you just set up. You need it to actually be able to talk to the outer internet. And we're going to do that with the Nginx web server. I think I have another video on the channel, which I'm going to link below, that shows you how you actually use Nginx server. So I'm not going to talk about setting it up in this video, but I'll show you the Nginx code that you actually need to connect the public internet to the Docker instance. So for me, you can see that the Umami instance is running at umami.irtizahafiz. So my domain is called irtizahafiz.com, and then umami dot is a subdomain of it. Now let me show you how I exactly did that. So for that, I'll go ahead and open my Nginx config file. Okay. And then I walk you through the whole file in a different video, which will be linked below. But for this part, I'm gonna just show you the Umami part, which is gonna be here. So what this Nginx server is essentially doing is telling the ports in your computer that whenever a request is coming to port 443, which is the HTTPS port, and the request is coming to umami.irtizahafiz.com, so to that particular subdomain, I'm gonna just forward that request, or Nginx will just forward or pass that request to port 7001 running locally in that machine. And what is running in port 7001? If you take a look back at, so you'll see that the Umami instance is running on port 7001. Okay, and that's exactly what you're telling your Nginx server over here. Any request coming to umami.irtizahafiz, forward it to port 7001. After that, there's just a bunch of SSL certificate, but you can just like copy paste all these. But the key is over here, where I'm saying any request coming to umami.irtizahafiz, forward it to the locally running Umami instance. In this way, whenever a user's browser is trying to send a Umami event to your server, it's going to send it to umami.irtizahafiz.com. Your Nginx web server is going to receive it. It's going to see that the request is coming for umami.irtiza, and then it will forward it to 7001, hence establishing a communication between the public internet and your locally running Umami instance. Okay. So now if we go back to the system design diagram over here, we have our Nginx server up and running. It is proxying or passing any request coming to umami.irtizahafiz.com to the locally running Umami instance. And as we talked about, the Umami instance also has a Postgres database container, which it can store all the data to. Now the last part remaining is gonna be to actually log the events from your ReactJS code onto the Nginx server. Okay, so for that, I think we'll just like scroll down to that part, which is gonna be over here. So if you need to link your Umami instance to your app, right? It can be a NextJS application, which it is in our case, or it can be a ReactJS application, but the idea is the same. All you need is to add the script tag that you see over here. In the script tag, you're gonna see that the source over here is exactly where you're hosting the Umami instance, which in my case is umami.irtizahafiz.com. And then the Umami instance essentially gives you the ID. So if you go to the settings of this over here, you should get the ID. Let me see if I can pull it right now. Yeah, it should be somewhere over here. Maybe here, right? Yeah. So over here, you can see that it already gives me the ID, and this is the exact ID you're gonna see over here. That's how I am identifying my website. Because in Umami, you can have multiple websites hosted, and it's super easy because with the multiple website, you can have different website ID and have all of them showing on the same dashboard. Okay. So yeah, to connect it with your Next.js or ReactJS app, it is as simple as adding the script tag, and then all the events that you see over here, the views, visits, visitors, everything should start streaming in without any additional work that you need to do. The only other thing to remember is if I go to view details, you see the custom events over here. And of course, this is something you define on your front-end code. So you'd have to write the logic for it, which is literally one line of code for each of the events. I'm gonna show you that as well. So I have the whole app over here. You're gonna see that if I go to index.js or app.js, you're gonna see the exact thing I showed you is right here. And now the last thing I'll show you is all the events you see over here. How do I log them? So I'm gonna just like copy paste some of them. So maybe credit card tab selected, and then let's search for it. And you can see, so on the linked element, all I'm doing is adding an attribute called data umami event. And that's all I need. Then whenever someone clicks the link, I get an event that streams to my, or that is sent to my Umami instance. You can look at a few other examples. Let's say we have like YouTube tab selected, and you're gonna see same thing over here. Slightly different would be, I think, the smart search button click, because it's a button click as opposed to a link click. So for the button click, I'm using JavaScript, where you're gonna see, I'll walk you through it, don't worry. Yeah, so whenever, so if I do fetch recommendations, so whenever someone's clicking on the button, the onClick handler, this function is being called. If I go to the function, you're gonna see it makes an API call, but after that, somewhere over here, right. So after the API call, it actually tracks this event called smart search button click. If we're here and we typed Nginx, once I click that search button, what should happen is I should get this event, and then I should get another event, which is going to be the search query text, in my case, Nginx dash smart search. Okay, so let's try it out. If I do Nginx search, I get the results here. If I go to my Umami instance and do a refresh, yeah, you can see that it's already here. In the activity log, you're gonna see I've got the smart search button click, which is this one over here. And then I have that Nginx smart search, which is over here. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea how you can actually log the custom events from the code. So now we have walked through how to set up the Umami instance on a server using Docker. We have talked about how that Docker instance talks to a Postgres database that is also hosted locally. We have also seen how to expose the Umami instance to the public internet using an Nginx server and a subdomain. And finally, we have seen how you can connect your front-end app, whether React or Next.js, to the Umami instance to log any kind of metrics or custom events that you might want to. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to get to them as quickly as I can. There will also be a blog post linked in the first comment. So if you need a more step-by-step instruction, please check it out as well. With that said, thank you so much for watching till the end, and I will catch y'all in the next one.